Yeah.
Celine, would you just like to say a few words about yourself as you're running the penultimate, the sixth session in the series?
Sure.
Great.
So, yeah, hello everybody. I'm here in Santa Cruz, California. I actually am expecting Stephen Gilligan to arrive at 6 this evening. We're doing a 4-day supervision here with him, which we've done since 2002. And I am a psychotherapist here. I still see a few clients, although these days I'm doing a lot more supervision of new and experienced therapists at various levels, wanting to bring in more mind, body, spirit techniques and approaches to their work, not just do talk therapy. And I teach at Saybrook University, which is a graduate school focusing on humanistic approaches. And I work with the mind body medicine program there, bring in a lot of experiential work because that is my background, working the experiential realm. So I'm pleased to be at a university that allows me to bring that in and not just think about these things, but do them. Been working with Steve Gilligan since '99 and bringing in a lot of the movement work that I do. Um, and glad to answer any questions. You know what, Julian, at some point, if you want to like throw my, I can put this in chat. Do you have chat enabled?
Yes.
Okay, I will put my email there in case anybody wants to reach out. But I'm glad to be with you all and delighted that you're doing this, Julian. I think it's a wonderful way to get a chance to work with each of the steps along the way of this work.
Great. Thank you, Celine. Great. Really great to have you participating. And as you know, my work is also experiential. That's the thing that I'm interested in. Having, helping us go through the change processes. My life calling is helping people blossom. And probably later on today, as when we get talking about, this step of the process, I'll tell you a little bit about my own personal history because I come from a really messed up family. And so I'll talk about that a little bit. So today is on the what is it? I've gone completely blank. The fourth step of the creative mind process, which is about transforming obstacles, welcoming and transforming obstacles. And the creative mind process is Steve Gilligan's deep coaching model, which involves both the unconscious and the body. So engaging the unconscious and the body in a coaching process. And why do we call it coaching, not therapy? Because first, what is the difference between coaching and therapy? My view is that coaching is primarily orientated towards creating the future and performance, happiness, and success. And historically, anyway, therapy has been about getting us back to being an everyday neurotic. But actually, there's an enormous overlap between the two areas. And I think that in deep coaching, of course, you need to go back and heal historical wounds as well. So, really, the difference is marginal. I would say that you're not really dealing it's not really coaching anymore when you deal with significant psychiatric issues. But other than that, deep coaching covers very, very much the same territory. And this is the creative mind model is a great model for engaging the conscious, the unconscious, or you could say body, emotion, mind, and spirit. Or you could say mind and body. There are lots of different ways of talking about the same thing. If you want to be a whole person, you better work with the whole person. We're not just intellects. We're emotion. We're mind. We're spirit. We're body. So all of that is really important. So let's just very briefly recap the model. The focus that I'm taking is that is to teach us to use the creative mind process for our own daily meditation practice. And the view, sort of critical key view on creative mind, is that it's really important for us to have a daily practice because if we're in the body mind connected state, then the people that we work with as professionals or in our lives will be impacted by us as whole people. That if I am an agent of change, if I'm a therapist or a coach or a counselor or a teacher or a leader, if I'm well integrated, body, mind, emotion, and spirit, that will have a really positive and useful impact on the person that I'm working with. And if I'm inviting them to be body, mind, emotion, and spirit, then then I need to be in that state myself. And but this is a practice. This sort of practice, whether it's the creative mind practice or something similar, is I consider to be essential for a healthy life. So the first step, and I'll do this briefly because many of the people have been here for the previous free classes in this series. The first step is to get a body-mind connected state. And of course, when we do the meditation later on, after I've made the presentation, that will be our first step. So body, emotion, mind, and spirit. Gregory Bateson said that the integration of multiple levels of mind, of which one extreme is consciousness and the other the unconscious, is grace, or grace is the integration of multiple levels of mind. And you could say the conscious and the unconscious, but you could say body, mind, emotion, and spirit. And of course, that's why people do mindfulness practices, yoga practices, walking in the woods, time in nature, listening to music. There are so many different ways of engaging multiple levels of mind. And of course, our society has just got slightly stuck on the conscious mind, on the cognitive mind. And of course, the cognitive mind is great, but it's only one part of the story. So the first step in the process is to engage multiple levels of mind. And then from that body-mind integrated state, that mindfulness state, to just wonder, to think about our intention for the session. And if you're doing a daily practice, your intention for the session might be, this is how I want to be today, or this is what life wants from me today. And then I can imagine that, I can see that, I can have a few words to describe that, and I will make sure that I've got a feeling for that, and perhaps also a gesture, because that really ensures that it's somatic as well as verbal and emotional as well. And then the next step in the process, Sophie, could you just mute everyone and then unmute me because there's background sound. The next step.
You are mute, Julian.
The wonders of Zoom. And isn't it amazing that we can all come together from all over the world in these sessions? It's just such a wonderful thing. I've really been enjoying the benefits of it. I'm also really looking forward to more and more workshops where we can touch and see and hug each other. But this is a fantastic substitute. I'm really so happy about this. So the, the third step is really a crucial part of this model and this approach, which is that we've got a body mind connected state, multiple levels of mind. We've got an intention within that, but we also need all our psychological resources. We need to bring out the best in ourselves. And one of the beautiful things about the creative mind approach is that it includes more resources than some of the other models include. We will come to that in a moment. I will take you through that several times, the different types of resources that we have. What do we mean by resources? Just briefly, every moment of your life where you are happy or in the flow and successful, engaged and connected. Every moment in the life when somebody saw you, believed in you, cared about you, loved you. And every person who ever really saw your potential, the memories of all of those moments are some of your resources. And we'll also talk about community, your friends, your colleagues, your ancestors, your personal lineage, your culture, global culture, nature and spirit. We'll talk all about all of that in a moment. So all of those inner memories, thoughts and feelings that you have are a part of your psychological resources. So then as you're thinking about your day, you will think about, this is how I want to be today, and I've got perhaps some difficult, stressful things, or I've got some high performance activities, or I've got to have a conversation with my kid or my boss, I've got to do something that needs the best in me, maybe there's some quiver of emotion that comes up. Maybe there's a wobble. Maybe there's a shortness of breath. Maybe you feel a little bit uncomfortable or uncertain about the sales call you have to make, or you need to talk to your partner about something difficult within the relationship. And so the first step is to welcome the emotion. So the first key principle of creative mind is you welcome everything, including difficult emotions. So rather than pushing difficult emotions away, we welcome them, we say hello, we bring our tender hearts to them. And of course, the psychological resources includes your own tender heart. So you bring your tender heart to it, you welcome it, and then you may need to add resources. You may need more resources depending on what it is. So if you're a little bit nervous about the performance review with your boss, the resource you might apply is remembering all the great things that you've done during the course of the year, the difference that you've made to the organization during the course of the year. You may just remember all of those things, make a movie in your mind's eye of all of those things. And you might also remember how the conversations that you've had with your boss during the course of the year that have been really helpful and useful, and how he or she has been supportive. So you start to bring in resources to support you around any sense of difficulty or wobble that you have around the activity that you want to engage in. We're going to talk a lot more about this shortly, so I'm not going to go into this point in detail, because this is the area of detail that we're going to discuss during the course of this workshop today. And so then you start to weave those resources. You keep bringing more resources to any difficulties. And one of the really critical points about the difficulties is that there may be something there that's really important for you. There may be a message that's there that's really important for you. For example, it's great to be, being vulnerable can sometimes be uncomfortable. But being vulnerable is also a way that we connect with people. It may be really important to actually share a feeling or share something that's difficult. So obstacles are also resources, but they may need some cooking. They may need resources adding to them. They may need some time to develop them, to transform them from difficulties into resources. And so that's the weaving process. By the end of the step 5, the weaving process, you will have you will know that you're there, because you are holding any vulnerability or difficulty in yourself much better than you were at the start of this. So, for example, if I'm nervous or anxious about a meeting, the big, warm-hearted me is holding the hand of the little me that's nervous about how I'll do at the meeting. So there's some sort of, you've accessed your internal support systems to support yourself in whatever it is that you're going to do during the course of the day. And so then the 6th step, which is the one that Selene will teach, although she'll go through the model again and she'll say things that are different to the things that I've said, and she'll say them in a different way. The 6th step is then to just mentally rehearse your day with these resources, with this integration of your resources and your obstacles. So with this intention, with this body-mind state, with these resources supporting you with any nervousness or difficulty or anything that seems to have gotten your way but is now being supported by internal resources, you then just imagine yourself going forward through the day or the week or the month or whatever period of time it is that you're thinking about. So it's the mental rehearsal stage. And it's where you test out going forward and saying, what would it be like if I go to this meeting with these resources and with this vulnerability? What is it like? How will that be for me? And some people like to do this walking on something called a timeline, which is imagining that you have time as a line on the ground, and therefore you can physically walk forward into the future. Lots of people like to do it that way, and it's great because it engages the body. I often do these meditations sitting, but it's great to walk these meditations as well if that's something that you like to do. And it's actually great to experiment with it in both ways. And the final step is saying, actually, if this part of me needs support today, maybe it needs support tomorrow, maybe it needs long-term support. So how can I continue over the course of the days and weeks and come to keep bringing resources, or keep the resource may be to have a conversation. So it may be that, you know, the adult me with a warm, tender heart, my wise adult mind and warm, tender heart, need to have a conversation over a period of time with the child me that was isolated, abandoned, and felt unloved and unseen by the family. It's not a single meditation. It's something I may need to do over a period of time. So there's always a sense of, when you get to the end of this, which is, how can I deepen this? How can I take this forward? What do I do next? What do I do tomorrow? And having a sense that the more we access and mobilize our resources on a daily basis, the better our life is going to be. And there's something in positive psychology, which I've mentioned before, called the broaden and build theory of positive emotion, that says that these meditations not only feel good at the time, but they improve your risk taking. You'll take a little bit more risk, but not too much risk. You're likely to communicate better. You're likely to relate better. You're likely to use your most successful behaviors and skills. And therefore, there's a correlation between these sorts of meditations and having more success. So that's the sort of the key 7 steps that we're going through in these sessions. I'm just going to talk about the evolutionary levels of consciousness. And this can get very complicated, but it's a key part of the model. And I'm going to show it again to you in a slightly different way. And the purpose of this is to evoke in you resources that the normal, traditional psychological processes don't always evoke. It's like, let's have all the resources we can lay our hands on. Let's evoke the resources from all the levels of consciousness. So the first one, which is the hardest to explain, which is, you could call it the ground of being. The philosopher Gebser called it ever-present origin. But it's essentially that if you use mindfulness, the best way to experience this is if you use mindfulness to get really present, so you're really attending to the present moment, you've let go of thoughts of the past, you've let go of thoughts of the future. The most real, and I say that advisedly in inverted commas, thing in life is what's actually occurring in the present moment. Everything about the past and everything about the future is a construct. Actually, the way our nervous system works, how we represent the outside world in our nervous system is also a construct, but we can get into deep water if we discuss that too much. So that really, really being present in the present moment is what you could call spirit or ever-present origin, or the ground of being. It's what the mystics tune into, and we'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. And so then out of this sort of the sensory world came all of nature. Out of consciousness, if you like, came all of nature, the whole of the natural world. And out of the whole of the natural world came beings who were self-aware, who were aware of their of their family members, of their culture, of their lineages, of their tribes, but also of themselves inside. We know that we have different parts of ourselves. We have, the parts we like to present at work and the parts we don't like to present at work. We could call it the community of mind. We're not just our individual mind, which is the next level, but we're much, much more than that, aren't we? So then the sort of next evolution of consciousness is this very, very separated mind. I know who I am, I know what my potential is, I'm going to make it happen, I'm going to be successful in life. I'm very, very sort of self-driven. I do relate, but I'm very self-orientated. And of course, the modern world has really cultivated that. It's very good for success and business goals and things of that sort, but it's not very good for community. It's not very good for creating peace between nations. It's not very good for looking after the environment and the natural world. And And so then the sort of the final level, which is sort of the level that we're coming to, which is to see all of these and value all of these. Um, that not that the intellectual mind of, the Enlightenment and of the modern era is wonderful for many things, but it's not the only mind we have. We also want to tune into our culture, our family, um, society, the world community. We need to tune into all the different parts of our own being, body, emotion, and spirit, in addition to just mind. We need to, remember that we're not separate from nature. This is sort of it's a very, very strange thing that human beings have done, is think of ourselves as separate from nature. Every breath proves I'm one with nature. Every glass of water proves I'm one with nature. Everything I eat, I do not exist, I cannot exist separate from the biosphere, the world. And so we've got to come back to that sense. And those are resources, those are part of our resources. And then at the sort of the deepest level, if you like, we can actually watch how all the level of minds rise and stay and go, that things are ever changing, but awareness itself is present all the time. And that's mindfulness is a portal through to another realm in which time is not the important factor, but the ever-present moment, the eternal moment is the key factor. I'm actually going to do a little bit of work on this model because from a sort of experiential point of view, where I normally start in coaching was with somebody who's, they're in their rational mind, they're in their individual mind. That's where, people come because they've got some emotional issue, or you can't think it through, so therefore you go and talk to someone. If you could think it through, you probably wouldn't sit down and meditate on it, would you? So there's some sort of invitation, which when you sit down and do a body, mind, emotion, spirit, or creative mind meditation, you're sort of saying, I need to include more because I'm not including enough. So then you get to collective mind, which can include all the different parts of yourself. So there's the internal community of mind, which is all the different parts of your own nature. But on the outside, so all the parts of you, but on the outside, your family, the psychological history of your family, the psychological history of your lineage and the experiences of your ancestors. We're not only impacted through our own lives, but through, of course, how our parents brought us up, and the emotional climate with our parents, but also the emotional climate of their parents and the parents before them. We know that trauma can go at least 3 generations. So if anywhere 3 generations back there's trauma in your family, you've got some of that. You're carrying some of that. And we just, there was a world war not so long ago, so everybody's got something that's probably a little difficult. That's just the nature of existence. And that can be difficulty, but there are also resources. There are also powerful resources in each of our lineages. Do you know from your family history what all the resources are in your family history? So then stepping out beyond, culture, human culture, world culture, I can have Gandhi as one of my role models. I don't only have to have people from my own culture as my role models. I've got an internal representation of Mahatma Gandhi. I love some of the things that he said, and I have some of that, that wicked sense of humor that he had. When he came to England and a reporter said to him, Mr. Gandhi, what do you think of Western civilization? He said, I think it's a very good idea. I love some of his humor as well. So we've got the whole of the world mind that we can draw on as well as a part of our resources. And then I can draw on nature. I can draw on how would a stream handle this? If I was the sky, how would I do this? What would an oak tree that's 500 years say to me? What do I learn from the cycle of the seasons? So there are, so many experiences we have of life that we can say, oh, how would Mother Earth do this? How does it feel just supported in the great cycle of existence, this problem that I have, how is it in the cycle when I think of this as the cycle of existence of a lifetime? And then of course there's the mindfulness awareness practice process itself. The way I talk about this is that there's the ocean of existence, and then there's the wave that rises in the ocean of existence. And if I identify with the wave, I'm here today and dead tomorrow. I'm just risen for a short amount of time and I disappear. But if I can identify with the ocean of existence, I'm going to feel a lot more secure. And that the starting point for that is just being aware of how thoughts and feelings and experiences arise moment by moment. They stay for a while and then they disappear, and you just coast the mindful consciousness itself. And that for me is sort of the most powerful resource in my life. And then, of course, the mind that we're learning about right now is the mind that can integrate all of these levels. So the fact that we can observe a slide like this and begin to bring all these pieces together is the integral mind. It's the mind that we have a sense of individuality, but we also know that we're a part of nature. We're not saying one is true or the other is true. We're saying we're both. I'm all of this and much, much more. And so then just recapping again the resources from last week, which we will, which is in a way just a listing of the things that we've talked about previously. And again, I may change these slides slightly. So there's sort of the individual me that I can remember all the time. No, I can't remember. Wouldn't it be great if you remembered every single moment in your life when you were in the flow, when you were happy, you were communicating well, you were effective, you were performing well, you felt aligned with yourself. Just that, if you just remembered every moment in your life you were like that, if you spent a month just remembering all of those moments, your life would change. And that's only the first on the list. So, and then to really know what your strengths and talents are, to know what your abilities are, to have confidence in them, know how to use them. And if you spend time attending to your strengths and talents, they actually become what are called strategic strengths. You can start to teach them to other people. So there's all, really having a knowledge and drawing or, internally on all the things that you're good at and really knowing about that. And then all the people in your life who ever believed in you, saw you, said yes to you, cared about you, had compassion for you, or loved you. It doesn't have to be just people who loved you, but anyone who said yes. And there might be some people, a friend, for example, or a family member who said yes to you for many, many years. But there have been people who said yes to you for, in a passing in the street, or there was an interaction that you had with someone somewhere where they said yes. There's a school teacher, I can't even remember his name. There was something, the manner he had with me was he believed, I could feel that he believed in my potential, and I took that in. So again, to just spend lots of time, when we talk about circle of resources, I like to invite you to imagine that you've got people around you who support you, and you start with half a dozen, and then you stick another 6 on, and by the time I finish with you, you'd have a whole football field of people standing around you, and then anyone you need at any time, whether it's a kid from your school years, your best friend, your mentor, your teacher. It could be a saint. We'll come to saints. Mahatma Gandhi can appear if that's the resource you need, to really be aware of every moment that people saw us and said yes. And these are all so powerful. So then, sort of people who are perhaps not alive, and I have not been very good at looking back at my ancestors, because I've got a lot of difficulty in my ancestors. So I have to sort of try and bring out the good bits rather than the difficult bits. But if I just take my mother's family, I'll say a little bit more about my mum shortly. But her family, they were military people. My mother was a warrior. She went into battle. She rescued people under fire in the Second World War in the front line. And her grandfather, I know hunting is not, those of us who love nature, we're not very keen on horse, hunting with hounds. Grandfather died on horseback, and the horse walked him home. There's a whole lineage of ancestors of powerful warriors, and I don't. Quite a lot of that I need to reject. Not reject, but say that was of its time. But there are some qualities there that are actually really useful to me. And I'll tell you more about that shortly. So in your culture, what is it, what is it about your culture that's great? And of course, we all know, certainly I know as an Englishman, that there are lots of parts of my culture that were not so great. In recent history, the British Empire, all of that stuff, all of that thinking. But that doesn't mean to say there weren't things that were great too. You don't have to throw it all out. So what are the elements of your culture that really give you resources? And then you can go, well, what are the elements of global culture, from other cultures that you can draw on that really touch your heart, that you can bring to play. Ubuntu from, the South African tribes, or the spirit of Aikido, or the beauty of European art. There are so many different things that you can bring. And I've made a separation between worldly archetypes and spiritual archetypes, because I can think of characters from Disney or from the movies that represent things for me, and they're slightly different to the saints. And perhaps it's a single category. But what are the qualities in the world that dogged persistence might be one. So there are all of those qualities and characters and people, and people from Lord of the Rings and all the different books that you could read, The Wizard of Earthsea, or whatever books and movies and stories and poems touch you. There are all of those qualities that you can bring. And then, of course, I've mentioned nature, so I won't say much more about that. But there's quite a lot of research now that I'm just beginning to look into about the physical impact, the impact on your physical health, your immune system, your mind, your well-being of time in nature. And so when you think of places in nature that have brought you well-being, you see them, you hear it, you feel it, you smell it, that could be really a powerful quality to bring to your next business meeting, to remember sitting by the brook in the dappled sunlight, listening to the quietness and the sound of the water and feeling the heat on your skin, or whatever it is. And particularly with these resources, nature, smell can be very, very powerful. The smell of the sea does something for me. And then, of course, there are the saints of every tradition, whatever traditions you can call on. It's so wonderful. I mean, I love the fact that I can, in my own mind, I can have all the Buddhist saints and Jesus and Mary as well. I can have whoever and the goddess. I can call on whoever I want. So my invitation is, who do you want to call on? Whose support do you want? I do this every day. I call on the saints every day. And then there's the direct non-dual experience of when you've done mindfulness or meditation, you're totally engaged in the moment. There can be moments when you just feel one with everything. And so what we're going to do today, the big topic of today, is to apply all of these resources, or to think about how we apply all of these resources. Actually, I'll take the word think about. We're going to think about, and we're also going to apply these resources to places in your life where you have difficulty, but we're particularly focusing on a daily practice. So even though I think in the email shot that I sent out, I talked about turning obstacles into gifts, turning wounds into gifts. That's, I have to say that's a long-term process. That if you, like me, have had difficulty in your childhood or early life, or you've been exposed to trauma and you're still carrying some of your woundedness from that, you may need more than a daily practice to sort that out, because one of the powerful things that we know, which is if I really need a lot of resource, a lot of support, it can be great to have two people, one of whom is being the coach, and one of whom is being supported, is the explorer. Then you have one mind specializing on leading, and the other one specializing in receiving. So, um, but 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 the ultimate goal of this work is not only to bring healing to all those places in ourselves that have needed healing. That's the first stage, really. Well, you could say the first stage is identifying what needs healing. The second stage is the healing. The third stage is that what you've learned what you learn from healing those obstacles and difficulties becomes a resource for you, and you can get to the point where all the difficulties of your life have given you lessons, not from the beating, but from what you did to heal from the beating, that gave you lessons that have made you deep and wise and compassionate towards other people and able to give your gift to the world even more fully. So for those of you like me who have been terribly wounded, that there's some light at the end of the tunnel, which is that if you recover from this well, you'll be deeper and wiser than people who were never wounded in the first place. I know that's not very helpful if you're just at the beginning of your journey, but I think it is worth saying. It is worth saying. So just a little bit about my own story. Um, I think I will say this. I'll say it like this. I'll say, so I was really effed up as a child, and I'm not so effed up now. And so if you want to go from very effed up to slightly effed up, I'm your man. So so my mother was a great warrior in the battlefield, but she had post-traumatic stress syndrome when she came back from the Second World War. She was an ambulance driver in the Free French Army, won medals in the front line for rescuing people, won the top French medal, military medal, but was disconnected from her feelings and didn't bond with her two boys, her twins, my brother Stephen and I. And one of the really most poignant and tragic things about that was that there was so little love. My twin and I, we were competing for love. So we hated each other from the outset, more or less. So that's really was such a tragic thing. And my twin, from about the age of 18, became a heroin addict. My father's business went bankrupt. He was pretty messed up himself. He became an alcoholic. My uncle on my father's side was gay, and in the 1950s you could get prosecuted for being gay in the UK. So he went to Malta. He died of a drug overdose, but I think he just took too much of a party drug. So it's not quite so bad as dying from a heroin overdose. And there's other stuff in my family. Just talking about ancestors, my great grandparents on my father's side, one of them was an aristocratic German woman, and the other was a rich German Jew, and they married, and fortunately they came to the UK in the 20s, but there's some toxicity between the German and the Jewish side of in our psychology. I do believe I've heard it said that my great grandmother was actually, even though she married a Jew, she was anti-Semitic. So who knows what was happening there. So all very complicated and also difficult for me because one branch of my family got exterminated in concentration camps, and the other branch, at the very least, were bystanders. So that I can tell you a lot. That's one of the reasons why I'm politically active. I'm not going to be a bystander in my life. So we carry all of these things. All of these things need to be healed. But all of this took me into my healing journey. I mean, that's the thing to say, that my brother chose heroin and I chose personal development. I chose personal development at the age of 15. I've been doing it since then. I tried a lot of different things. And I really committed to that. And as a result of that, I've learned so many things. Because I didn't bond with my mother, I was taking care of carers. I had to connect with the next carer that came along. It was like someone would be there for a year. So I'm quite good at connecting with people. It's something that I learned from that experience. I learned to be future orientated. I became spiritual at a young age because that was a powerful resource that was there for me. I'm resilient. You know, I've got lots of qualities that have come from that. But the things that I value most is that I'm compassionate for other people who've had difficulty in their lives, and you know, I have had to work really hard on helping myself blossom. You know, my life calling is helping people blossom, and so starting with myself. So you know, I've been working on my own blossoming for 50 years. I know I don't look that old. And you know, and helping other people with theirs for 40 years. So then that's another really powerful thing that comes from the healing process, which is that your deepest wound can become key to your gift, is key to your life calling. I've just been doing the Life Talent Program, which is my 20-day program with people. I'm doing it as 43-hour sessions on Zoom at the moment. And we've just done this stage where you do you know, at the beginning we do life calling. What's your life calling? What's your purpose? What's your gift to the world? And then just at the end of the summer term, we've got something, I call it your life falling, which is the core wounds. And then there's this sort of moment of realization when people realize how their life calling has had, you know, it sort of was the way out of those core wounds, that core difficulty of your childhood. So then it all gets put to good use, as long as you can process it all. Everything experience you have can become a resource if you heal it, if you bring resources to it. It's such an important message. And one of the resources, by the way, is humility. Sometimes you'll find that talking therapy is great, was really great for anything that happened after 3 years old. But before you could talk as a child, there may be experiences that you have in your body that you neither have words for nor memories for. And modern, you know, even the best psychotherapy is a very, very young science. It's a very young tradition. And so there may be some things that will take you a very, very long time to get to. I mean, that's why the somatic work, somatic experiencing and body work is so important, because you can work with feelings that you can't verbalize or that you don't have a memory for. You know there's something there because it's in your body, but you haven't got a memory for it. And so one of the things you learn in the process is just humility and love and compassion for this human condition, which with the magnificence and beauty of life and existence. And you know, life is so luscious and so painful, you know, and we need to really enjoy the lusciousness of it as a balance, partly as a balance for the painfulness of it, and the lusciousness of it can support us with the painfulness of it. And that's sort of to really get the human condition. Life is difficult not because I was a problem or unlovable. Life is difficult because that's the nature of human condition. You know, all the reasons you might have for not being lovable or not being great or not being this or not being that or not being included, that's just, it's not personal to you, it's personal to the human condition. And I think that's very, very useful when we get that. And of course, when you do the healing work with your parents and your family of origin, you know, sure, they were wounded, but also they passed on woundedness down, and to really see clearly how some of the things that you learned about yourself were not true. They were true about your parents' emotional state, but they weren't true about you. You know, for example, unlovable or incompetent or incapable, or, you know, whatever it is that you picked up. So let's come back to the topic of how we explore this in creative mind. And really the key, so again, to say that there are some things that you need to work on for years, there are some things that you can sort in a few months, and there are some things that we can do to support ourselves in a daily practice. So I use resources, use is the wrong word, but I evoke resources in my daily practice that support me around my ongoing vulnerabilities and support me around whatever it is I have to face today. And some of them are a part of longer term change processes of learning to love myself better, or to learn to love corners of myself better. And by the way, if any of you have been to the sort of brief therapy type of psychotherapy stuff that says, you know, the one-time intervention works with superficial stuff, or, you know, if there is a part of you that you have pushed away and tried to exclude and dislike so much you'll have nothing to do with it, and you're trying to bring healing to it and build a relationship with it, do you think you're going to go all the way on the first date? You're not. So there may be parts of yourselves that you need to go back and meet again, have lots and lots of dates with them before they agree to marry you. So some of these processes are long-term processes. I just want to, just remind us all of that. And so the daily practice can be used to just really support and nourish. So, for example, I can talk to the child in me who believes that he's unlovable every day. I can hold his hand, I can meet with him, I can cuddle him, I can talk with him. And the wise adult mind in me can do a little bit of like parenting. So I can say, oh, such and such a person is really easy, loves you in a very easy way. Let's go and hang out with them. I can take the kid in me to go and see safe people who will tell me that I'm lovable. So just in the same way, if you have a child, you take them to the playground, you want them to take a little bit of risk, but you don't want them to run out into the middle of the road. You want them to climb a climbing frame, but not too high. So your more cognitive mind and your warm heart can play that role day by day, week by week, with the more vulnerable places in yourself, perhaps the places that were touched or wounded when you were young. And so it's you sort of having a date with yourself every day is what a daily practice is. I think I'm going to take us into a meditation shortly, but I just want to find out first. So I'm going to take us on a meditation through what it is that we've been talking about. So any questions before we go into the meditation? Any practical questions? Great. That looks like there are no practical questions. You better speak now or hold your peace for half an hour. Great. Actually, questions afterwards are often better than questions before the meditation. After the meditation, they come from a deeper place. So I'm going to use the meditation I often use on the Life Talent program that some of you are familiar with. 4-3-2-1, wise adult mind, warm, tender heart. And so, of course, the first step in the process is to get present. Notice the air temperature, notice the feeling of where you're sitting, your backside on the seat, your feet on the floor. I'm in London, it's quite warm here. I can feel the sweat on my skin, which I enjoy. And then I'm just tuning into the sounds a bit. And I'll take us through all of this a little bit more as we go through the meditation. So you're just orientating yourself to the present moment, what you see, what you hear, what you feel. And so let's pay attention to 4 things you see, even if your eyes are closed. If your eyes are closed, you might see the darkness of your eyelids, the flashes of light on your eyelids, and images in the mind's eye. And so just paying attention to 4 things that you see. If your eyes are open, the good thing to do, or the helpful thing to do, is to focus on one spot in front of you and then defocus your eyes so that you can see things around the central focus. So I can look at the screen and I can see the window, I can see the screen, the window, the keyboard, the floor, while just softening my gaze. And then we can pay attention to 4 things that you hear. And I'm not very good at counting, so I always at this stage do 5 things, because I like to listen to the sound outside the window. Is there sound outside the window? Is there sound in the house? Listening for sound in the house. Listening for sound in the room. Listening for sound in my body, my heart, my breathing. And then finally, I like to listen to my internal dialogue. What's the radio station saying? Or listening to it like a voice in the room, someone talking to you. You can listen to it, but you don't have to believe it. You can be curious and compassionate about it, but it's just one of the things that you can hear. Therefore, it's not you. It's only part of your experience. It's not you. And then 4 things you feel. And it could be great to pay attention to something on your skin, to a muscle, to a sensation or emotion in the trunk of your body, and one other feeling. And notice 3 things that you see. And 3 things that you hear. And 3 things that you feel. And 2 things that you see. Two things that you hear. Two things that you feel. One thing that you see. One thing that you hear. One thing that you feel. And just pay attention to your experience. Well, put your attention on your breathing, the in and the out breath. Notice the detail, the subtlety of every sensation as you breathe in and out. And it's really great to have something like breathing to attend to, so that if our mind wanders, we bring ourselves back to the feeling. So there's nothing wrong with chatter in your head, but it just takes up too much space most of the time. So we keep extending our awareness into our body and into external sounds or sounds around you. So keep broadening your awareness into your body. Keep broadening your awareness in terms of sounds. And any internal dialogue is just one of the things that you're experiencing. And let's just think about our intention for this meditation. If this meditation is a daily practice, what is it we want today? What does life want from you today? And make an image of that. See it. Have a few words to describe that. Feel the feeling of longing for that. And perhaps have a gesture. Move your hands in a way that invite that. And having evoked that, just let it be there, rumbling around in your unconscious, your body, mind, emotions, spirit, being. And let's evoke resources. I'd like to invite you to imagine people who really believed in you, seen who you truly are, believed in your potential, cared about you, said yes to you. And a fun way to do this is just to imagine that you're by a campfire on a warm summer's night and the gloom is around you. And you can just sit by the campfire of awareness and just allow to come to mind someone who believes in you, or who believed in you, who saw you, cared about you. It could be someone who's currently in your life that you know well. Or it could be someone from the distant past who you didn't know well. It could be someone who is alive, or someone who's alive in your heart and your soul. And when they come, you see them close by, hear their words of support, and feel how that feels in your body. And when you've really felt one, you can allow another to come to mind. And people process at different speeds. For some people, you might spend just a lot of time with this one person who's giving you positive input and support. Or you might find that several people come giving you positive input and support, one after another. And the more often you repeat this type of meditation, the more supporters you'll have in a way that's easy and natural. And some people prefer to invite characters from storybooks or movies or mythological stories. Or ancestral stories, fairy tales. And some people love to have saints or goddesses, priestesses. And we can have all of this. And however important they are in the spiritual world, you can have them close. You can invite them close so that you can see the glimmer in their eye. Perhaps even feel their breath. It's up to you. Making friends with the inner world. And feel their blessings, words. From spiritual figures I receive light that turns into feelings as it enters my body. Make sure that whatever the case is, that you breathe it into your body, you feel it in your body. And sometimes it may be like honey that's soothing a wound. The wound, the pain hasn't gone, but you can feel the soothing going on. Some change processes take a little longer than others. So just be very, very present with the change process, with the process that you're in this moment. Just allowing them to be here. And you can ask them directly to support you in relationship to your intention, your goal for today, what it is that you want from today. And then listen to their words, but more important, feel the feeling that they transmit into your body. Feel it in your heart. One of the really key roles of these supporters is to touch your heart. So that your heart opens to yourself. Sometimes I imagine sending this love out. I know how to do that. But then I turn it round onto my own body I send the love out of my heart as if I was going to send it to someone else. And then I have a sort of U-bend. I turn it back to my own belly so that you open your heart to your own body, emotion, mind. You welcome whatever's present. You say, hello, welcome. The first stage in transformation is always to say welcome. To be sweet, to be kind, to be generous. So there's the empowered you with your circle of resources, your supporters, filling your heart, and your supporters and your warm, tender heart can bring love, appreciation, wisdom, understanding to any place in you that's tender, that needs support. And as you're curious about the place in you that needs support, it might be somewhere in your belly or your chest or your throat. Or somewhere else. You can be curious about that place in you. You can be compassionate. You can ask yourself, what does that part of me really want? What does this part of me really want? And you might find yourself asking that part of you, how old are you? Maybe this part of you is much younger than your present age. Maybe it started at a younger time when we were so sensitive to the world in our youth or our childhood. Or it could be some other time in your adult life where something traumatic happened. But it's really can be helpful to notice where this came from. Does this part of you need new messages? Messages from 2021? Maybe 2021 is different to the time back then. Maybe that your wise adult mind and your supporters, your inner supporters, and your warm, tender heart need to dialogue or bring love or explanation, tenderness to a younger you, to update perhaps beliefs about yourself or the world, or just to bring tenderness and support and connection. Perhaps to explain. And the conversation today may be just the start of a longer conversation. I know for some of you, you've been having this conversation for a long time, so this is another step. But whatever the case, today can be a day when you grow your relationship with this part of you, so that this part of you feels more supported, connected, included, and listened to. And just for fun, let's just wonder if there are any other resources from your community, from your tribe, your psychological or spiritual tribe, the people who see you and get you, from your culture or your ancestors, or some aspect of Mother Nature, or spirit that wants to come right now. Just be open to something else coming if it wants to. And you keep applying this support, this love, this tenderness, this wisdom, this care, so that you're building a relationship with any part of you that needs support during this time. And just imagine how you and these parts of you, this part of you, how you, this part, your resources, your circle of supporters, imagine them. Imagine how you go forward with all of this together, supporting yourself, feeling the support of your inner supporters and your resources. I love to imagine myself everywhere I go with my supporters, my allies, available at any time and all the time. So imagine yourself going forward. Perhaps it's today, perhaps it's longer. Perhaps there's some commitment or vow or action that you want to take after this meditation is over, that will help to grow this relationship with yourself during the course of the day and the weeks that come. And finally, think about how you might continue this, you might do this practice tomorrow. What sort of meditation would you like to do tomorrow? How will you support yourself with this sort of meditation or some other sort of meditation tomorrow? So start to gradually reorientate yourself to the screen. Just keep in a deeply connected state and reorientate yourself to the screen. While you stay in this deeply connected state, we're going to do a short exercise where we just review what it is that you got. What did you get from this meditation? The exercise will be 25 minutes. Groups of 4 will have 6 minutes each, and I will do the timing for the groups of 4. Groups of 3 will have 8 minutes each, and they will do their own timing. So what did you get from this meditation that you want to take forward into the future? What did you get from the meditation that you want to take forward into the future? And 25 minutes starting now. Your rooms are available to you starting now. Any questions relating to how you do this as a daily practice?
If no one has questions, I can share something that comes to mind just out of some of what we were talking about in our group, which is how easy the impulse is to put our energy out. And of course, we want to be radiating wonderful and tender things and heartfulness into the world. But for me, being reminded that I have to take care of my own self first, and that sometimes my impulse to make it all okay out there comes from my thought that I'll be safe, I'll be happier if they're okay, and so I reach out to make them okay instead of reaching in to make myself okay, which makes me more able actually to be present in the situation at hand.
It's such an important thing. It's so easy for people to try and fix things out there rather than fix things in here. So that's really a beautiful thing, Selene. Thank you. Well, any other sharings, or if you haven't got questions, maybe you have sharings as well. How was it for you? Was it good? Was it rubbish? Did you think, how did you find it? Gianrico, go ahead.
Yeah, we reflected in our group that it's how to try out other version. For example, I try to I make it standing, this ritual with these 7 steps. And today it was the first time I tried by walking, but it wasn't so efficient or so for me. So how can I say, so fulfilled?
Yeah,
like
it wasn't so fulfilled walking.
No, not. I tried to make it by walking and interesting it, but it wasn't not so.
Yeah. I think one of the things is, one of the things I love about Steve Gilligan is he's tried things out a million different ways. And I think that's one of the things that he got from Erickson, which was, all the students of Erickson did Erickson's work in completely different ways. It's because, there really is infinite possibility with the unconscious mind. And so therefore, find the way that first step, find a way you love and make a habit of that so you can get into a deep state and do your inner work quickly. Secondly, try lots of other different ways to broaden the variety of options open to you, so it's both, isn't it? Find a way that's familiar and good, but also keep exploring because there's always something different to do and a new approach that you can take. I think that's great. Thanks, Gianrico. What else? Who else? Any other sharings or? Yeah, Marina.
Yeah, in our group, I fell asleep for a lot of it, Julian, but I do listen to them when you send the recordings as well. But in our group, there was a couple of us that were saying, because we're really busy, I am work-wise, I haven't got time to do half an hour, but I tend to do 10 minutes and then do it when I'm doing stuff around the house, just keep getting back to being self-aware as opposed to, and being very mindful as opposed to being in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And, you know,
yeah.
I might do stuff in the evening more, but yeah, it was helpful. Brilliant what you're doing.
Great,
Brilliant.
thank you. No, that's such a good point you make, because I think 10 minutes is great. You can even do 2 minutes, you see, you can do however long it takes. And I could, you know, once you're familiar with it, you can just sit down, take a few deep breaths, imagine some key resources and be done, you know. So
Yeah.
it's great to have a regular habit, you know, several times a day is wonderful. And then, you know, if you can do 2 minutes, if you can do 10 minutes, that's great. And then there's another day when you think, hey, half an hour is really what I want. So just be really, you know, don't make it something that's, you know, an effort. Make it something that's pleasurable and enjoyable, you know. So, for example, if when you're learning this, you know, you could just pick, you know, just work with resources. Don't, you know, no need to work with obstacles to start with. Just say, hey, I'm going to have the coolest people in the universe hang out with me for a few minutes. You know, wouldn't that be cool? Do that every day. And then, you know, you've got the coolest people in the universe hanging out with you. And then suddenly you think, oh, I've got a meeting to go to. What have you guys, and, you know, got to say about this? So just make it enjoyable. And also, I think, Marina, you know, it's very much that's quite talking about an advanced thing, which is that mindfulness is a portal into this world in which there is no past and no future and just the ever-present moment. And so therefore, once you're quite good at the mindfulness thing, just coming back to it many times a day is a wonderful thing. I can have a worry about some project I'm involved in, but when I walk down the street, if I stop and look at the tree or look at the kid or look at the people or notice the light, everything's perfect. So just being able to enter that world in which everything is perfect is so important. And in our culture, in Western culture, you know, we're only, you know, other than the mystics, you know, it hasn't been a part of our culture. We really have to, we're really introducing it now. And mindfulness has been the way into that, mindfulness and meditation. So thank you, Marina. Okay, unless there's one more question or something to share briefly, I'm going to do my usual closing ritual. So if you've got something to say or to ask before we close, I can't see anything, so I'm going to assume that. So could everybody unmute? And we have a full 2 minutes for you to just say, so tune into yourself, tune in, how am I feeling right now, this moment? And then when you're ready, speak. And if somebody speaks over you, wait a few moments and repeat it again. But let's hear, how are you feeling right now?
Love.
Chill.
Relief.
Powerful.
Balance.
Humble.
Warm.
Very
Open.
sleepy.
Connected.
Refreshed.
Supported.
Ready.
Gratitude.
Energetic.
Grounded.
But happy.
I'm on the way.
Determined.
To explore.
I'm not fully back yet.
Grateful.
Joyful.
Empowered.
Tenderness.
Enjoyable.
Hungry.
Peace. Peace.
Peaceful.
Thoughtful.
Connected. Whole.
In harmony.
Integrated. Curious. Hopeful.
Human.
Say that again, Belonda.
Human.
Human. Beautiful.
Warm.
Okay, so lovely to have you here. I could just sit with you for a while, but it's 6 o'clock, so lovely to have you here. Lots and lots of stuff to do. I forgot to put the slides, give you the slides last week. They're in the same folder that you'll find the meditations. If you on the newsletter, if you click on the newsletter, you'll find it there. I'll see you next week. Lots of love to you all. Thanks for coming,
Thank
Celine.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Julian. See you all.
Bye.
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 Thank you.